right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. State of the Nation continues. Let's switch gears now and talk about something else, something that was brought about by the control of budgets. And also there's a response from the former Treasury CS who defended approvals to sort from the control of budget, even as he faces House summons and MPs turn on budget boss. He says he didn't coerce Nyakango to approve 15 billion payments, says Yatani. And I'll start with Manzo on this. Let's do this in reverse now. Who bears the greatest responsibility? Is it the former CS or Nyakango? And is this normal for them to approve money before Parliament sits? Because also that is also related to the front page of the Standard, where Gachagua's 1.5 billion bill for office and the wife. Documents from Treasury show 2 days after Supreme Court upheld the election win, Deputy President asked for the money to purchase cars, fuel, and Second Lady's activities.
Ordinarily, Parliament has to pass a budget before it is implemented. But at times, monies can be spent and the House is explained later. The person with the biggest burden, you know, is a permanent secretary, is the principal secretary. It's not even the minister. The greatest, responsibility rests on whoever was the principal secretary at that particular time. But from what I saw from the news, these were payments, were part of the payments of the country owed certain contractors, people who had worked for contractors. And I want to say that in this country there's very many, pendy bills are so high. The government owes its business people lots of money, and in the counties and in the national government, and some of them have folded up their business because they had taken loans. So some have taken a long time to pay. But coincidentally, these companies have been paid. And for a government payment of that magnitude to be done, it has to go through the Central Bank of Kenya, which has a definite, has a lot of checks and balances before that money is wired. And if it is wired wrongly or fraudulently, it is very easily traceable. And those accounts can be frozen, and those people charged in court if they had not worked for this money. Legislators are threatening to oust Nyakango over this. Do they have a point there, or are they overreaching? The case of Nyakango, this scenario, the worst she can be is a witness in a court of law. Again, it is another effort to frustrate the Abagusi community in strategic government positions. But this the lady is totally innocent. The lady is totally innocent. The lady is totally innocent. I mean, that's why Silvana Zosoro, the chief whip, is writing a book called The Curse of Small Tribes in this country. If you are not in the big tribes, you cannot hold big jobs. If you look at the balancing of the ministers, the principal secretaries, and all strategic positions in government. Even yesterday we passed, somebody from the Rift Valley to become the deputy governor of Central Bank. I mean, the bulk of the country and the distribution of the jobs is against the smaller tribes. This shareholding company the Deputy President was talking about is between Central and the Rift Valley. And that's a very serious injustice to this country. Any people from smaller tribes have no chance permanently. It seems the power will always be in Central Province or Rift Valley. Okay. And therefore, they should be magnanimous enough to share and not frustrate a lady who she went through Parliament. She has a long-time experience. She was doing her job. And all of a sudden, when there is a new government, they want to put pressure on her so that she can exit that job and it is given to a person from either Rift Valley or Central Kenya. That's the reality. That is pure speculation. But let's bring Malala in here. Who bears the greatest responsibility? You started by saying that this money may have been used in the wrong way, but the former CS Ukur Yatani actually made a statement and said, what makes the approval of 15 billion sneaky and that of 127.5 billion before Parliament and mostly under the current government legitimate?
First of all, the person who bears the greatest burden here is the head of states, the former head of states, who was giving instructions through a WhatsApp chat. If a WhatsApp chat can make somebody approve 26 billion, that's the highest level of, first of all, misappropriation of public funds, and therefore we must ask ourselves, where was this money going to 4 days to the elections? Definitely, that money was going to aid the Handshake brothers, in partaking election expenses.
Again, another speculation. Because
but why the hurry? Why the hurry?
Hospital and pending.
No, wait. Why the hurry of paying 15 billion within 26 minutes through our WhatsApp chat? Second, Trevor, I know how people sponsor media headlines to try and balance stories. Just a day after we were told that 15 billion shillings was spent in 26 minutes, today we have a headline here trying to shift focus from that 15 billion to Gachagua. I would like to remind Kenyans that you are not dealing with Gachagua, the person you used to see in the streets. You are dealing with the office of the deputy president. Whether it is Gachagua, whether it is Trevor or Sam, we are dealing with the office of the deputy president. The reason why the amount of money...
Trevor, should this forum be used to cleanse somebody like Gachagua?
The reason why...
Gachagua does not need to be cleansed in this forum, in this discussion.
It's very good for us to explain. The reason why 1.5 billion Kenya shillings was requested 2 days after the elections. You know very well, the previous state, they had taken all the budget elements from the deputy president's office. President Uhuru Kenyatta had taken away even hospitality budget from William Ruto's office of the deputy president. And therefore, by the time Gachagua was being sworn in as the deputy president, there was zero money in that office. That is why they took back the budget which was there before the swearing in to the deputy president's office. And let me tell you one thing, 1.5 billion shillings to run the office of the deputy president. The office of the deputy president has got so many things that need to be financed. It's going to be, when you say that 300 million shillings will be used to maintain vehicles and to buy vehicles, somebody would maybe want to put himself in a setup of his own vehicle. Atandi is now thinking himself, how is my vehicle, my Peugeot going to use 300 million to be? It is not about your personal vehicle. It's about the vehicles that are used to make sure that the office of the deputy president is operational. And therefore, this money was well appropriated. Article 223, subsection 1 and 2 clearly says you can vie certain votes so long as you get ratification from Parliament 2 months after your first expenditure. And therefore, recently, through the supplementary budget, the honorable members ratified that decision. Here they are again saying that it was a wrong decision. Why did you pass the supplementary budget?
Okay. Atandi.
Trevor, I want to comment on a few issues. One, let me start with the controller budget. Trevor, I participated in the approval process of the President Controller of Budget when I was a member of the Committee of Finance and National Planning in National Assembly. And Trevor, there was no doubt in our mind that Mrs. Nyakango was the best person for this position. And we looked at her credentials and her track record, and we indeed, gave this job to the right person. But Trevor, this office is protected. The office of the Controller Budget is protected, and the Controller Budget reports to Parliament. It doesn't report to Treasury, Cabinet Secretary, or to the Presidency. The reason why this office is protected and is independent is because this is the office that's supposed to help Kenyans. When there's a rogue government, in town that wants to mutilate Kenya's resources, this is the office that is supposed to say no. So I am really disappointed that the Controller Budget chose to surrender to what is now called threats and approve some of these payments. And thereafter, comes around and says, I was threatened. Really, this is really an area which I have spoken to and I wanted to go back. These payments have been approved by Parliament. We passed these payments in the recent supplementary budget. All these payments that are in contention, the various parliamentary departmental committees approved them, and they were brought to us in budget committee, and we approved them. So these payments actually have been passed. The only payment which has not been passed is this one to do with Telcom. And the reason which we were given why it was not passed is because some people are claiming that they are still going to establish the true ownership of Telkom, that they don't know who are the owners of the shareholders of Telkom. And that is the reason why, the reason they gave us. When we said that in our finding, these payments ought to have been passed, all of them. So basically, this was just a case of people who want to play politics. But I can tell you that these payments, we have approved them, which means the payments were done in order. And for payments to get to Treasury, the various line ministries have approved them, first of all. Treasury is the last person. They just get instructions that we need these payments passed because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. So Treasury does not initiate payments. So that is the reason why I think this conversation is being diversionary. Because if Parliament, if these payments were passed by way of Article 223, which is legal, and as Parliament have approved them, where is this noise that these monies were stolen? They were stolen by who? Because if they were stolen, then we would not have approved them. Yeah. So what we have said, and in fact, what we have said about this Telkom ownership, we have actually asked the Auditor General to go and do for us a forensic audit and report back to Budget Committee, because once we get that report, we will know whether the payments were done correctly or not. And by the way, when that is done, we will still approve them as Budget Committee. So this noise about money having been stolen, I don't know where it is coming from. It is diversionary. It is one of the strategies which my friend Malala is trying to use, to run away from responsible leadership. Because, they are defeated, they can't do anything, they can't give Kenyans what they promised. So I think they are just trying to run around. So I've made that point very clear. And I want to ask the Controller of Budget that she must take responsibility for payments which she signed. If she signed them, she must take accountability and say, the payments were in order and I signed them. The fact that she's trying to say that she was forced or coerced is really a dangerous route. That is the route in which now people who are going for hide are going to use to hound out of the office. Because I've seen now the KK people want to put their tribal people in those positions. And they are likely to use that analogy that she was coerced and she accepted. That can be used to remove her out of office. And I know Senator Malala here knows very well that from Kakamega County, he deserved to have been in a cabinet position, but he could not qualify because of his tribe. Now he has been given a peripheral responsibility of parroting about party political issues. When he's a person, a vibrant youth leader who should actually sit in cabinet.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, secondly, let me just finish and respond. And lastly, Trevor, I want to talk about payments to DP, Deputy President. Trevor, you remember that immediately these people took over power. The first statement they made is that they found Treasury empty. They said the Treasury is empty. They found, I don't know, was it 50 million or what? They found 50 million shillings. I'm asking myself, Senator Malala, if you found 50 million shillings in Treasury and you made it clear that the Treasury was empty, where did you get this 1.5 billion outside the budget to buy these vehicles for Mr. Gachagua and his wife and his office? Where?
But and
you've made a very dangerous allegation here that the office of the DP was not provided for resources during the last regime, which is wrong, because and I want to teach you, all constitutional offices in the Republic of Kenya are appropriated for resources. As in the Budget Committee, we have to ensure that an office which is constitutional is given resources. You can never refuse. In fact, there's a time we wanted to refuse to appropriate resources to SRC, because at that time SRC was fighting Parliament. Yeah. And we were told that you cannot fail to appropriate resources to a constitutional office. And we still were able to give them resources, and we still give them despite us fighting with them. Okay. Even judiciary, we wanted to deny judiciary resources recently. We were told you can't, because those are constitutional offices. So this propaganda that the previous government was not putting resources in the office of the DP is wrong, it is falsehood, and we should never entertain it anywhere.
Okay. Malala, right of response.
First of all, I'm surprised that one of the slaves of the school of thought that our dear president is a tribal king. He's a person who believes in tribalism. I think that is wrong, and it needs to be corrected at the first instance. One, we have seen the most balanced cabinet since independence. We have had all communities being represented at cabinet. We have the Kamba community being represented by 2 CSs. We have the Luya community. We have even the Luos. For the first time, they have been given a serious docket. PS Interior is being led by one of their own. That's why they are receiving a lot of security from yesterday and today. They will be receiving a lot of security because one of their own is in charge of security. We have seen the most balanced cabinet since independence of this country. We know we have people who have depicted high level of tribalism accompanied with nepotism. Who is the woman representative for Kisumu? Raila's sister.
It's an elective.
Who is the senator for Siaya?
She went for nomination.
Raila's brother.
She went for nomination.
Who is the nominated senator in Senate? Raila's in-law. Who is the nominated MP for Yala? Raila's daughter. Who is even Atandi's Raila's relative. You know, let me tell you one thing. Raila believes in himself. He has shown us that he cannot even help other communities. Remember, when we went into the handshake, we were supporting Raila, knowing that he's going to liberate Kenyans. But when he got onto that table, he forgot about the Kamba community. He forgot about the Western community. We did not get even a single development project in Western region. But in Nyanza, they benefited from the airport, they benefited from the port, the Nyando Dam, all the highways. When you go to Kisumu, Kisumu is a city better than even cities, capital cities in Africa, some capital cities in Africa. So what we are saying is that Raila is the lord of nepotism. He's the lord of tribalism. You cannot put that lord to His Excellency William Samoei Ruto.
I don't agree. You know the projects in Kisumu had been set during the time of President Kibaki, and you know the flagship projects. You see the airport in Kisumu was a long time ago scheduled to become an international airport, and together with Eldoret Airport and others. So it's not because of handshake that those developments happened. Whether there was handshake or no handshake, President Uhuru and his government were still going to do those projects. They were internationally funded. They are donor funds. And this includes projects like Ithwake Dam and Konza City, which were flagged, under Vision 2030. So, in fact, they are suffering now because in their new arrangement of trying to scale down budget, you cannot reduce on donor funds, because it's not really the work of Parliament here or the government here on grants. It's not really to modify them to suit into any other situation. And they have international contracts to that nature, and they could run even beyond this presidency. So I really want to say that the Honorable Raila Odinga really did not have control on that, and he doesn't control Parliament. Budgeting is done by a budgetary committee.
He had 4 ministers from
it doesn't matter whether the ministers
the entire Western region had no single CS in the previous establishment.
Let Manzo finish.
But from Atandi's side,
5
we had
years
4.
since the handshake by the today.
Yeah, but you see,
I know I'm on this panel, and I must be very categorical. I'm on this panel, 1 Kenya Kwanza person and 3 Azimio people. But anyway, we learn how to handle it.
That's a lie.
And that was why you too defensive, Trevor.
You see ministers like Tuju or the late CS for Education, Professor Magoa. The one Jubilee appointed, they got nothing to do with Honorable Raila Odinga. They were already in government even before Raila Odinga went for handshake. And he did handshake to stabilize the nation.
All right.
To make sure that
Trevor,
the nation moved on.
Let Manzo finish. Yes, Atandi.
Trevor, Manzo has put it clearly. I don't need to add anything. And Trevor, what we need to caution is that this idea of always trying to use Raila Odinga in defense when we are debating very important national issues. We need to stop it, Trevor. And I'm happy that you are really trying to get this debate in a manner it should be. You know, when you talk about Honorable Ruth Odinga, who is a politician in her own right. Previously, she contested for governor in 2013, and she was number 2 in the ODM nominations. And she was appointed the deputy governor of Kisumu as the running mate of the first governor. Then in 2017, Ruth did not contest. She campaigned for the ODM party. And then in 2022, the then women rep for Kisumu, Honorable Rosa Buyu, left that seat and went to contest for a parliamentary seat. And then there was nomination. The nomination was called by the ODM party. Can you imagine, Trevor, that in many parts of Nyanza, many people were given direct tickets. But for the case of Ruth Odinga, there was a nomination which was conducted, and Ruth campaigned, and Ruth became number 1 in the nomination. So, you know, when you want to claim that, you know, Ruth got that position because of Raila Odinga's sister, it's very unfair on her. And I think, Malala, you need to stop demeaning women leaders. Ruth is a capable women leader in this country, and Ruth is a politician who has fought for her own space in the political equation of Nyanza. And she has never used Raila Odinga's name. Ruth fights for her position. Okay. Even now, she's in parliament, one of the most active members of parliament in the committees that where she sits. Very knowledgeable, educated. She does not, Ruth is not like some of your women ministers who are clueless. You know, you have ministers who are illiterate and clueless. And they are embarrassing the country even when they are presented out there to speak for us. Okay. So I need that needs to be clarified. And lastly, this government has engaged in criminal activities, especially to do with the budget. In the last budget, this government decided to cut, you know, donations.
Which last budget?
The supplementary budget. The supplementary budget which you have just passed. Can you imagine, in an effort to please people that the budget is being cut, you know, to size, these people have decided to cut down donations, money which is being given to Kenyans free of charge. We were supposed to receive around 20 billion shillings for malaria and HIV and AIDS. Trevor, can you believe that these resources were removed from the budget because the president, because Ruto wants to please Kenyans that, you know, I'm cutting down the budget. So we are really in a very bad situation. So we want to make it very clear, Trevor, that we Kenyans have to take over. We have to take over the power that these guys usurped from us. Okay. How? Illegally. These powers you usurped by using Chebukati.
So how will you take over?
To make you.
Explain to me like
to give you the instruments of state.
Explain to me like
we are going to take the.
How?
You cannot. You know you cannot. You are unteachable at this stage because you know you are on a salary, so I can't teach you. Otherwise, if I teach you, I will be taking away your salary.
Okay.
It is through the ballot.
Yes.
It is through the ballot. You have to prepare
the next one is in 2027.
Yes, you have to prepare Kenyans through the ballot.
So you've started your campaigns for 2027.
You started earlier. Yeah? In fact, President Ruto's government is already on campaign mode. In fact, immediately after winning the election in courts, the next day he was in Meru campaigning, and that's his right. Yeah. Actually, he's campaigning for his second term, and I believe maybe he will serve Kenyans.
So Manzo, you are trying to tell us that your presidential candidate is also has started campaigning. So it is certain that Raila is going to be the presidential candidate.
No, well, we haven't said.
We are not, you know.
We are not yet there yet. But obviously, your side is already in a campaign mode, and the country actually is in a campaign mode. And I think it's very unfair to Kenyans to be in a campaign mood throughout. Okay. We should see plans to develop the country. You know, the last serious developments, you know, which were set up by President Kibaki, and it really was visionary. We need that dream going on so that we can see tangible things happening. We know President Uhuru Kenyatta did the expressway, and the people now are accessing the airport faster. There is faster movement of goods and things like that. We need to know exactly what the current government is doing for people to improve their livelihood. They are promised in 100 days there was going to be change. Up to 6 months, no change yet. We are yet, other than a lot of noise, similar to what we saw in the Trump government in the US, we need to see deliverables, you know, so that the Kenyans are happy and Kenyans have hope, You know, that has not yet been given. They have said we are Christians, we are not going to revenge. We are not going to do to others what was done to us. And remember, you remember the Bible says, not everybody who says, Lord, Lord, will make it to the kingdom of heaven, but those who are able to forgive and move on. We have not seen forgiveness. We have seen what is happening to Matiang'i.
Trevor, you've heard what my good friend has said. It's as though he doesn't live in Kenya. We have seen the deliverables that have been done by the current establishment. Within our first 100 days, you know very well, we committed that we are going to ensure that we respect the rule of law by respecting the fact that separation of power exists within the presence of our constitution. We appointed the 6 judges. And that was a deliverable that was done within the first 2 weeks of our establishment. Second, you know very well that we have been launching and pushing the housing agenda. We are focused on delivering 200,000 houses per year. And it's not just a matter of having affordable housing. That project is providing employment opportunity to thousands and thousands of our youth. That is one of the deliverables that we've done. The Hustler Fund. We've been able to provide a common mwananchi with a facility that can enable him get capital for his business and boost his business. That is a deliverable. Look at the Dongokundu economic zone. Recently, the president launched the Taifa Gas at Dongokundu. We are opening up and bringing in investors to ensure that we have investment in that economic zone at Dongokundu, and we are doing a lot of things, including managing and dealing with the climate change agenda. We are serious about having 15 billion trees by the end of our tenure, and we are walking the talk. So if you say that you are not seeing anything, it seems you don't live in Kenya. Okay. Kindly now to come back and now start concentrating on what we are doing. You know, they are busy in the streets. When you are busy in the streets, like today, if they live here, they are going to Andamana until Jioni. Tomorrow they'll come back here. They have no time to follow and trace the development agenda of our country. Okay. And I want to urge these honorable members, you sit in Parliament. You sit in those committees. What do you transact there? All these things you want to say in the streets, could you please retreat in your respective committees in Parliament so that we use the constitutionally provided platforms to ensure that the change that you want to bring in this government, the change that you want to bring to your people is transacted in the best platforms that you guys are privileged to sit in? Okay. Atandi.
Trevor, he knows very well that they just the same way he has been bought and made to become a turncoat from his political party, even without thinking. Blinking an eye. Within a week, this guy has moved from being an ANC stalwart to Tanga UDA, Secretary General. So everyone is being bought. Even most of your MPs have been bought in Parliament using the same money that was used to buy you. So don't expect much to come from Parliament on some of these issues. But Trevor, what I wanted to say is that Trevor, there's a looming.
No, just on that. Just on that. There's a looming. No, just on that. You rather be bought and you're independent mind than you are not bought and you are.
When you are bought, you are not independent. But when you are bought, you can't be independent when you are bought.
No, you rather be bought.
The fact that you have been bought means you are not independent.
You rather be bought, but you have an independent. You
don't have independent.
I made a personal move. Just a moment.
Admitted to having
yes.
Bought.
If you have been bought, the word bought and independence cannot operate in one sentence.
But you see, they are used to collective thinking. Raila thinks on behalf of all the legislators in Azimio. He has got no mind of himself. He has got no mind of himself. If today Raila says that we are going to dive in Lake Victoria, Atandi will dive in Lake Victoria first before asking why are we diving there. These are sycophants. These are people who do not think for themselves. I made a personal move. I am a man of my own. I make my personal decision. Tell Atandi one day contemplate reasoning aside from what Raila thinks.
All right. Trevor, I'm a member of a progressive national party called ODM, which is led by Raila Amolo Odinga. This is the party.
I saw you during the nominations when they are denying you certificate.
No. Trevor, I have no reason to exit a progressive party like ODM that has sponsored me to parliament. And
you bought your way
we have a leader. We have a leader who is giving us proper leadership. Yeah. So I don't want to be. I cannot leave ODM simply because I want to go that side where there's power. Where there's power. And you can see, ODM is one of the most progressive parties in this country, within and without parliament. We are championing causes for the people, and we are standing on the side of the people, because if ODM today abandons their role, what we are doing together with Azimio, then this country would become a banana republic. Because the president, the so-called president is worse than people like Bokassa, President Bokassa, you know. So we are playing our role to ensure that this country, this country is good for all of us. And that role, and I cannot be bought.
Of your own.
If Malala, who has been a youthful leader in this country, who was championing transformation of the country, can exit to a party that is tribal, a party that is running a country that is actually eating everything.
UDA is not a tribal party.
Yeah, so you know you cannot leave. You cannot leave your leader. You cannot leave ANC even Musalia did not even know that this guy was leaving.
And
you exit your party without even your party leader. Your party leader is not even aware.
You need
and you're telling me that
even
you made your decision.
To come to and debate.
So the message I'm trying to pass, Trevor, is that let us separate, independence and being bought. Those things can't work in the same sentence. Okay. You have been bought. That is full stop. And you are now machinery for hire. You are being used to bring down political parties in Western Province so that you can eat. So that's the point. But the point I wanted to raise, Trevor, is that we have a looming fuel crisis in this country. And if you saw the statement which was released by the President of Tanzania, assuring Tanzanians that, first of all, their dollar stability, their dollar is stable, and that there will be no shortage of fuel in Tanzania. You saw those statements. In Kenya here, we are having that crisis because the dollar is at its lowest, at its weakest. And very soon, Trevor, we are not going to have fuel in this country. They are not having those conversations here because there's nothing they're doing. They are choosing to, discuss irrelevant things like the opening of, those things that have no bearing currently on the life of Kenyans. Kenyans are not going to wait. And by the way, when we speak about these things, don't take us as jokes, because we are talking about the issues that are at the heart of Kenyans. And very soon, Trevor, you are not going to come to work, because if you cannot get fuel, there's no way you can walk. You will walk here to work. So we are facing a serious crisis as a country. And if these people are sleeping, because you can see they are sleeping, we want them to continue sleeping until we get to a revolutionary moment, because we are going to face a revolutionary moment where Kenyans are going to demand for these services. Because the moment next week, I don't think we are going to have fuel.
All right.
And I'm thinking about how Malala is going to run around, without fuel on his cars.
Malala, let's clarify one thing. At what point did you move from ANC to UDA? And are you looking to amalgamate all the parties under UDA? And by this, the shilling that is at the lowest, not the dollar. Yes.
Sorry.
First of all, allow me to respond to Atandi before I answer you that question. This was a strategy. Immediately, they were defeated in elections. These are the lords of monopoly in Kenya. Atandi is lamenting about the cost of high fuel, yet he knows the owner of Rubies. They have monopolized that industry. Atandi is complaining about the cost of food stuff, and yet he knows the owner of Brookside. Atandi is complaining about the high cost of living, yet he knows the single owner of gas products in Kenya. And therefore, if really you are genuine about bringing down the cost of living, why don't you start with the gas?
As Ruto brought down the cost of eggs. As Ruto brought down the cost of eggs. No. Has Ruto brought down the cost of eggs? Are we having cheaper eggs? Are we eating cheaper eggs today?
We are not genuine in this discourse.
Okay.
Second, as I said, Honorable Atandi wants to paint the ruling party as a tribal party. The ruling party is not a tribal party. In fact, the party that has depicted high level of nationalism is UDA. Because one, when you look at the leadership of our party, the the chairperson of UDA comes from Mount Kenya, a woman, a respected woman, Honorable Cecil Mbarire. Our party leader comes from the Rift. Our deputy party leader comes from the Central Region. Our deputy vice chair comes from the Coastal Region, Omar Hassan. Our treasurer comes from Kisii. Yours truly, the Secretary General, comes from Western Region. We have the face of this country. And therefore, you cannot start painting UDA as a village party. Second, you've asked me about when did I move from ANC to UDA. Immediately after elections, Trevor, and as my good friend said, it was rumored that I was among the people who would have qualified to sit in cabinet. And you know very well, Article 77 of the Constitution clearly says that once you are a state officer, you are not supposed to hold any position in any political party. So in anticipation of my appointment as a state officer, because after I lost elections in Kakamega, it was inevitable, since we won the national government, it was inevitable that I was going to be appointed in whatever capacity, CS, PS, CS, chief, assistant chief, anything, but it was certain that I was going to be a state officer. So in preparation to that and in anticipation to that, I resigned from ANC. Immediately I lost elections. So by the time I was moving to UDA, I moved from a partyless point of view to UDA.
All right.
So my transfer was not from ANC to UDA. Okay. My transfer was from ANC to being partyless for around 5 months, and then from being partyless, now I was recruited into UDA.
Okay.
But it is not a mistake to move from UDA to Wiper, to Chap Chap, from Chap Chap to Ford Kenya. We are sister parties. We exist within the coalition called Kenya Kwanza Coalition. Therefore, we are not in competition. And even these subjects and this discourse that I have brought about, parties merging, this is a discourse that we are persuading our colleagues in our coalition to fold up their parties, have one strong party that is going to face our opponents come 2022. So it's a strategy. It is not an opportunity for us to start having conflicts within Kenya Kwanza. No, we are employing persuasive ways in which we are going to talk to our colleagues. And this decision or this idea is not cast on stone. This is an evolving idea that we shall sit down. If we are convinced otherwise, if the dynamics tell us, come on, having one party is not strategic for you, we need to have a multiple option of approach towards the 2027 elections, we shall go back to that approach. So it is not cast on stone. It is a discussion that has been brought about to develop a strategy that is going to ensure that we have political tranquility and political stability in our country.
Okay, so it's a strategy for 2027. All right, let's bring up some of the feedback that's coming through at Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Let's bring that up on the screen and say what you're saying before we start taking up closing remarks on this conversation. Let's bring up that on your screen and see what you're saying as the State of the Nation here. Okambo says Malala claims that a packet of unga is 185, down from 200. It's a big lie. A packet of unga is retailing at 220 in a small kiosk. Asidanganya wa Kenya. Where do you buy this 185 one?
It is 185. You know, retailers are also taking advantage. When you look at the wholesale price of unga is 178 shillings. So the retailers are supposed to retail it at 185. So people are taking advantage through the incitement from Azimio leaders that, oh, the price of unga is high.
Why can't you make it 100?
Shopkeepers
why can't you make it 50?
But we
want it at 50.
Well, no,
make it at 50.
You're being unreasonable.
No.
You're being blank.
You make it 50. Make it 50.
You've been in power. You've been in handshake.
No, which power? Me, I have not been government. No. We want cheap unga. Right. Make it 50 shillings.
And
why are you? Why is it 185?
Atandi, you know, from your physical attribute, somebody might confuse you to be a professor because of your beard. But you've got totally nothing about being a professor, because if you demand that unga drops to 50 shillings, come on, you're being unreasonable.
That's what Kenyans want.
And we have set up strategies to ensure that we are going to reduce the price of unga and foodstuff. One, we are going to subsidize farm inputs. We've started by reducing the cost cost of fertilizer. Second, we are importing maize.
When are you harvesting?
No, wait, but these are not miracles.
No, when are you harvesting?
You cannot plant today and harvest
7
tomorrow.
months. It is 7 months since
rainfall.
7 months since the subsidy.
We've not been
it is 7 months since the subsidy. When are you harvesting?
You look like a professor, but the things that are coming out of your mouth. You cannot plant today.
I'm asking you to address the challenges that we are facing as a country.
We are investing now in dams and irrigation. We are putting up a foundation that is going to sort out the issue of food security once and for all. Okay. We are putting a lot of money in irrigation. We are putting a lot of money. We are doing dams through the PPPs. And therefore, Tandi, allow us, give us time. We have
how many dams have you done in Western? How many dams are you putting in Kakamega? In Kakamega County, how many dams are you putting?
Let me give you a good example. Nyando Dam.
No, Kakamega County, where you come from?
The nearest.
No, Kakamega.
I want to help you the nearest.
You come from Kakamega. How many dams? How many dams?
And therefore, we are putting a foundation, Trevor.
All right.
We are putting infrastructure to ensure that we deal with calamities like a shortage of rainfall, droughts in future, so that we have enough reservoir for water. We are pumping money into the irrigation scheme. We are ensuring that we cushion our farmers against a high cost of farm inputs, and therefore we should be given time. You don't expect us to plant maize in January and harvest in February, Professor Atandi.
Okay. Let's bring up some of the feedback. I'll come to you, Atandi. Let's finish up with the feedback, and I'll give you a chance to speak. Let's bring that up on the screen and see what you're saying here. We see that Bob Owino says the Supreme Court ordered for recount of votes, whereas Azimio Kenya demanded for scrutiny and found that there were no irregularities. And IBC, led by its chair, Wafula Chebukati, were clear that stage servers were opened. Okay.
Yes.
Angela Lazaro says, Mr. Malala, it's now more than 5 months, Ruto and his team still playing blame games, politics, propaganda, and witch hunt. When will you people start implementing your campaign pledges? Okay, let's see what else you're saying here. Honorable Lilian Siyoi says, as a nation, we can only move forward if we are ready to deal with issues that threaten the normal flow of service delivery. The 15 billion shillings issue should be exhaustively probed for purposes of clarity and transparency. Okay. Remy Butia says managing the expectations of Kenyans is important in a context where the zero-sum politics model is prevalent. Today's panelists should debate beyond their political cocoons and know they are addressing millions of Kenyans. Okay? Asamoah says, I love how Samuel Atandi is busting Cleophas Malala on matters budget and finance. The money under question were all passed by the budget committee as per the law. Okay?
Oh, very good.
Reverend Harrison says, whoever did what in the last months of last regime, and if what the control of budget is saying are true, then thorough investigation must be done. Blame games won't help. We Kenyans need the truth. God bless. Sante Reverend. J.M. Musoma says, to survive regime change, holders of constitutional office like the control of budget, IEBC and DPP are weaponizing their dockets. This script of blaming the former president for coercing them to bend the law is absurd. They should go home or through jail. Okay. Godi Baraza says the blame games and roundabouts between Ukur Yatani and Nyakango signify that Treasury has more grotesque skeletons than what we are seeing. A serious probe needs to be done for Kenyans to see the true state of affairs in these departments. Closing remarks, I'll start with you, Atandi. Where next from here now? And then I'll go to Manzo, then give Cleophas the final say. He claims he's outnumbered. Atandi.
Trevor, have we come to the end of the debate?
Yes.
Okay, Trevor. I think what Kenyans need to do, Trevor, at this juncture is Kenyans need to know that they are on their own. That the people who usurped the power to manage the affairs of this country are clueless, and they do not know where to start. I think they were not ready. Somebody said that even Ruto was not ready, was not sure he was going to become the head of state. And that is why he has been fighting to create the office. He was fighting to create the office of the opposition, leader of opposition. And I think that office was supposed to be meant for him, for himself. So we are in a situation, we are in a crisis actually. And I think most Kenyans are not taking this matter very seriously because of the propaganda from the government side. There's a lot of propaganda and statements that are made for the sake of diversions. Like, you know, Gachagua saying that I'm going to list the people who stole the money. Those are statements which are said to divert attention of Kenyans on the critical questions of their food security and welfare. And we want to urge Kenyans that the situation is very serious and no amount of propaganda and prayers is going to save us. And Kenyans must now begin to take matters into their own hands. And as Azimio leadership, Azimio One Kenya coalition leadership, we are ready to work with Kenyans to the realization of their aspirations in terms of a welfare state, a country that takes care of the interests of the poor and interests of everybody in the country. Because very soon we are going to have a fuel crisis. We are going to have the cost of living is continue to go up, because the moment you have a fuel crisis, things will get out of hands. So I want to tell Kenyans to be ready for a crisis. And in this crisis, Raila Amolo Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, together with Azimio One Kenya leadership, we are not going to leave you behind. We are going to work with you to ensure that the country is delivered from corruption, from confusion, from tribalism, negative ethnicity, from theft, from rolling back of constitutional gains which Kenyans have fought for over the years. And we will not allow Kenyans to get to that stage. Thank you, Trevor.
All right, Atandi, one other thing that we haven't spoken about that I'd like all of you to also mention in passing is the way Matiang'i was summoned to the DCI. What are your views on that? Manzo alluded to it.
Yes.
But I didn't hear your
What's happening to Matiang'i is basically persecution. And I've said it here before. It is persecution. In the last regime, Matiang'i played a very important role in stabilizing the regime of President Uhuru. When Ruto wanted to tear the regime apart, the person who stood up in that space was Matiang'i. And in standing up for the last regime, he became an enemy of many people. One of the enemies he created was Mr. Ruto, the usurper of state power. He became one of his enemies. So what is happening is that these people want to persecute Matiang'i. There is no evidence that he has committed any offense. There is no evidence that there's a crime. Even when he was summoned recently at the DCIO, there was really nothing. He was questioned for 15 minutes, but held for 7 hours. So we're having a situation where people want to persecute the former interior minister, and it is very unfair, because if you know the kind of work Matiang'i did for this country in the area of security, right now the current minister for interior is clueless. I don't even know what he's doing in the office. But during Matiang'i era, you could see, and Kenyans are actually saying they wish Matiang'i was back. So this is a person who did a lot of things for this country, who served this country with all his heart and energy, but now he's being persecuted. I am happy that in the process of persecuting Matiang'i, they have made him a national leader. Right now, Matiang'i is a hero. If Matiang'i left this town and went to Kisumu, went to Kiambu, he went to Nyeri, you would see what would happen to him. They have actually created him in the process of persecuting him. They have made him a person who's going to be a serious national leader in this country.
But there are those who argue, Atandi, that nobody is beyond the law. So shouldn't we allow the security operations to continue and then make? But
they don't have. They don't have any. They don't have a case. They don't have a case. They don't have a case.
You don't know that yet.
But maybe my brother, lawyer Manzo, we spoke because he was part of the team that went to DCIO. But from where we sit, there is no case against Matiang'i. What is happening is persecution. And we have said if they have a case, they simply need to present him in court. He will be, if today, if I'm to be arrested, I will be arrested and taken to court and charged. But when there is no evidence, they take you around. They summon you, they create drama, to waste time and to try to persecute you, to put in a situation where you feel like you're being belittled, to be held by, junior police officers, to be harassed. That's what they're doing. They have no case. If they had a case today, I'm telling you, Matiang'i would have been in the dock today and he would be charged. Okay. But you cannot be charged because the office of DPP will ensure that there's sufficient evidence before you are presented in court. Okay. And that evidence is not there.
Manzo, what do you make of this standoff with Matiang'i?
And Trevor, yes. You cannot allow usurpers of power to be the one talking last.
No, leave it.
Malala is the one who should have actually.
Yes, I think it was a fair decision.
Yeah.
Let me say that when I went to DCI, I accompanied Honorable Raila Odinga, we were told that Honorable Matiang'i was limited to 4 lawyers only. When we were doing the election petition, each side was allowed as many lawyers as it could have. And therefore, we were prevented from accessing DCI, which is really unconstitutional, is out of practice. It has never happened. All the years I've been a lawyer, I've never been denied access to a client. So I think that gave an indication that there is already trouble. And finally, when we got to know what the preferred charges are, they were really trivial. And when there is what we call a prima facie case, when you have a case where it's clear what it is, then you know somebody will be charged, they will have their right to their bond, and they will defend their case. So in the Matiang'i matter, there's clearly something not right. And you know, when we were detained outside the DCI offices, we were told they are waiting for orders from above. I think that should really change in this country. Everybody should be free. We had a lot of armed policemen there while Kenyans are dying in the north. I think it's really, I'm not a threat to the DCI officers, really. And I can give an idea or two on those charges, and I can really help the policemen, because I'm an officer of the court. Policemen are officers of the court. We just need to have a discussion and get a fair way of getting it done with. But the attitude is one of Matiang'i must be crushed. I think that's a wrong attitude. And whoever was giving instructions really did not have an idea of what should happen to Matiang'i. There was a little bit of confusion. But I want to say that the role of the opposition is to check the government in power. The government in power must be thoroughly scrutinized on the floor of the House and by Kenyans. And I really want us to play that role. And the president himself has said he's not interested in handshakes. He wants a strong opposition. And therefore, we should be allowed to be strong opposition. There are so many things. Even the president doesn't know about his people. And therefore, we must tell him when we see things going wrong so that we can have a government which serves the people for now. And secondly, you know, the opposition is a government, you know, you're waiting to form government.
Ever waiting.
You can work hard and also convince Kenyans to vote for you in the next election. And this is what we are trying to do by making sure the promises which you are given are kept. There is a serious crisis in the country. There is serious poverty in the country. Kenyans are very patient. We have a drought. You know, and we have to see a government which is coming with a plan on how to go to make things easy. This is a wrong time to, you know, add the cost of electricity, because then manufacturers will have a problem and it will never improve the economy. This is a wrong time to have so many taxes on fuel. And our neighbors have cheaper fuel. We have very expensive fuel, and therefore cost of living in Kenya is high. Really, we want a way forward in this. We want to see, you know, cost of living coming down so that Kenyans can go on their business. So there are many things we look forward to the current government to do, and that's we must keep it on check. We must keep on telling them where they are going wrong. When they have no plan, we must tell them you must have a plan. When they make appointments which are skewed to one side, or even incompetent people into government, and then because they are majority in parliament, then parliament becomes like a rubber stamp. We want a parliament which can stand. You see, the majority and minority in parliament are supposed to check the government. But the assumption now is that the majority in parliament are actually in executive. We need the courts, you know, which can be fair completely so that they become an arbiter of the country. And we look forward into forming a strong nation. So let the opposition do its work. Let the government do their work.
But there are those who also blame legislators like yourselves, especially for fuel levies. They say you're the ones who passed this in parliament.
What happens because of majority and minority and these members of parliament who's been bought to go and do the agenda of the government, you find that majority have their way. And the majority who are assuming that they are already executive. You know now is the most unfortunate thing. The expectation of 2010 Constitution was separation of powers. But the practice, unfortunately, and the tradition since 2013 has been majority members of parliament just comply with the executive. So parliament, unfortunately, has become a rubber stamp. So that claim is true. And when it becomes a rubber stamp of the executive, then members of parliament are not going to be able to help the electorate. It's the most unfortunate. Therefore, members of parliament must stand for the people who elected them. And even if you are in the majority, you don't just please the president, advise the president you are wrong on this one. And that's the moment Kenyans will get assistance. You see now, we have GMOs coming in the country without proper consultation, without thorough scrutiny, without public participation. You know, you cannot make a decision for Kenyans and force them to take up GMOs products without proper mechanism of making a choice whether you will consume GMOs or not. We have a lot of food reserves in the Rift Valley. Food is still in their barns. It needs to be bought and reach the drier areas of the country. So we need to balance our country, and we need to make sure that we make the economy work. We need to prepare. In the event the drought persists, what are we going to do? The so-called dams now, Foke Dam has taken more than it should have been taken. It should have been completed by now. There's no proper plan. There are no funds allocated. There's no more funding of Konza City. I mean, something is wrong in the country, and somebody has to come up and show Kenyans a direction. I'm challenging the current government to reduce the cost of living. Otherwise, Kenyans will not bear this any longer. Whether they come from Central Province, Rift Valley, UDA, or whatever party, parents need to pay school fees and they need to feed their families.
Okay. Malala.
Yeah, good enough. Matiang'i. I think Matiang'i is living his own story. He scripted a play, and now he's an actor in the same play. That's all I can say about Matiang'i. Okay. Second, I have seen a contrast, and I must admit, you know, when you see good things about a friend, it's good to say. I have seen soberness in this good friend of mine, a good lawyer of mine. It's like day and night. You can see how he articulates issues, how he's balanced in his thinking, and you can see a leader who has got a very good mind, but in the wrong place.
So you want him to cross over?
On the contrary, you can see the opposite. And this shows me, and this tells me why Kalonzo Musyoka will never fly the flag of Azimio. Because I think with this type of approach in that organization, you can never now defeat people like Atandi, who are streetwise in thinking, and who think like they think collectively. That said and done, I want to agree with you that the cost of living must come down. That the issue of cost of the fuel must come down. And we are committed. We are committed as a government to ensure that we bring the cost of living down. We are doing everything possible to correct the past mistakes. And you remember in 2018, the finance bill of 2018-2019, where you introduced the 8% fuel levy. Remember, it was a wiper or post. I remember wiper or post, but it was a coalition between Jubilee and ODM members who introduced the 8% fuel levy. So we are suffering because of the mistakes that were committed by the same people who are complaining right now. But that is watered down the bridge. We are saying that let bygones be bygones. Now we are focused as a government. We are now in charge of the government. We have put in place mechanisms to ensure that the cost of living comes down. We are putting in, we are reducing taking loans from foreign countries. We want to have a budget that we can manage ourselves. We are reducing on certain expenditures. And I want to tell Kenyans that we are still implementing the handshake budget. Our budget is coming in the 2023-2024 budget estimates. So our master plan will start being implemented in the subsequent budget that is coming. My parting shot is, today, as young people wake up in the morning to go and hustle, I would like to encourage the young people of Kenya. Ignore these maandamano calls. Our president has initiated the affordable housing project in Starehe, in Ukambani, in Syokimau. We have plenty of job opportunities. We require plumbers.
Those are Uhuru projects.
We require masons.
Those are Uhuru projects.
We require interior designers. We require painters. Kindly, don't waste time going for that maandamano stuff. Because that maandamano stuff is only going to benefit one person, Raila Odinga, because he has been looking for a handshake from every sitting president. This time round, don't be used. Young people of Kenya, don't be used. And if you want to know that this is an exercise in futility, the maandamano that is starting today is an exercise in futility, because if Raila was unable to access DCI offices, how will he access State House? So this is simply hot air. Don't be dragged into things that are not going to help you. Wake up, go to Mudhurwa, go to Gikomba, hustle. You deserve a better life. You don't deserve to go to sit on the streets of Nairobi. And you know, there's the scorching sun. So don't just fall into that trap.
All right.
Go hustle, get your money, and we believe that you, as young people of Kenya, are going to get a better livelihood out of the establishment that William Ruto is trying to form.
All right. Gentlemen, another 1 minute to give tributes to Grace Onyango, who is the first woman of fasts.
Thank you.
99 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Trevor. Grace Onyango is a trailblazer in women leadership. And I think was the first women MP in this country. And the first mayor. And the first mayor. She has passed on at a very good age. I think she's 99. She lived a very good life. I think for me it's just to celebrate her and celebrate her and wish her family well. Lastly, Trevor, I like the way leaders like to urge wananchi to go and work. Go to Mudhurwa, go and do what? But them, like my friend here, he has just been bought and paid and could not even run a kiosk. But now he's telling poor people to go and run kiosk. But show us your kiosk. Don't tell people you used to go and run kiosk and you don't have a kiosk. Okay. You are just waiting for an appointment.
It's okay, Malala tribute, Mama Grace.
It's okay, Professor Atandi. I hear you. I follow your advice. Grace, I think Grace is an example of a lady who rose from being a councillor. He started by being a councillor and the first mayor of Kisumu. And when you go to Kisumu town is a well-planned town. And it's planned because of the former leaders who were there, and Grace being one of them. We want to take this opportunity to mourn her and say that we've lost a great woman, and it will be inscribed in history that there lived one great woman, Grace, in Kisumu. And we want to implore upon young leaders of this country, kindly, make sure even as you lead, make sure even as you represent people in parliament, leave a mark equivalent to that Honorable Grace has left in our hearts.
Dan.
Yes, it's most unfortunate that we've lost her, but I want to say that while we are celebrating, Women's Day, which is moving on into a Women's Week, she was a great role model to a lot of women leaders, and she set the pace. We really want to encourage women leadership, and even from the 2010 Constitution, there are aspirations. Countries which have embraced women leadership have really gone far. And we need to also make sure that the role of the girl child, the education of the girl child, the role modeling, which has been doing, goes on. And our life is a good example to many others. And we hope many women Kenyan leaders will come out strong like that, make change, make plans, and do deliverables like the way she delivered the city of Kisumu, and make sure it's got good planning so that you have a legacy. And she has left a good legacy. May her soul rest in eternal peace.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making time. Cleophas Malala, Secretary General, UDA, Dan Manzo, Deputy Secretary General, Wiper, Samuel Etandi, Member of Parliament for Alego Songa, and Mama Grace Onyango sat down with Victoria Rubadiri sometimes back of her journey, a woman of many fasts. R.I.P. Mama.
Prof.